All right. Happy Monday, everyone. This is Jamie Taylor, the founder of the Black Golf Directory and also the founder of the Black Golf BGD Virtual Career Fair. I'm so grateful for you all joining us today as this is the kickoff to a 2-week series that have been going on, like I said, for 4 years, where I spend about 45 minutes interviewing the major golf industry companies. And the purpose of this is because having been in golf my entire life and currently a LPGA professional, I was not aware of any corporate opportunities in the golf space well into my career. And so I hope that you'll be able to take in this information, whether you are a college student, a high school student, or a parent, or a current working person, and learn from these different companies about what possibilities you could do in the business, as well as I'll be collecting resumes from you all. If you're interested in applying for these roles, I can submit them on your behalf. That way, you hopefully be looked at the top of the list. So please stay tuned and please feel free to ask questions throughout because we do want you to have this opportunity to actually ask our guests questions. And these people are the ones that are in the roles of hiring or have influence on hiring. So this is why this is such an important event. So thank you for coming. And I'm going to bring on, I have PGA of America, but PGA Reach is a subsidiary of that company. They are our first guest. And I'm going to introduce our guests today. I have them tell you who they are. So first, I'm going to bring on Ms. Cameron Dinkins. Hi, Cameron.
Hi, my name is Cameron Dinkins. I am the PGA Works leader. So PGA Works is under PGA Reach, which is the foundation of the PGA of America. PGA Works is the diversity and inclusion, workforce diversity and inclusion efforts of PGA Reach. So we're all about getting people of different backgrounds to work in the golf industry. And we do this through a couple ways. Our PGA Works Fellowship, which is a 1-year post-grad fellowship for recent grads who are interested in learning about the business of golf. So it's an opportunity to open up and expose them all about the business of golf. So they work in our PGA sections, doing foundation efforts regarding youth, our military initiative, and other foundation and diversity and inclusion efforts amongst working on section operations. So getting an opportunity to do things on the operational side of the section, but it's more of a community relations based role with opportunities to do business development, marketing, so on and so forth. We have our PGA Works Scholarship, which we provide scholarships to students attending our PGM university. So those are the PGA Professional Golf Management Universities. There's 18 across the US where people can get a degree in the business of golf. So we provide scholarships to students attending those universities who, once they graduate, will become PGA members. We have our PGA Works Collegiate Championship, which is the HBCU MSI championship that we hold. So that is a great opportunity for us to highlight students who play golf at our HBCUs and MSIs. And then lastly, we have our PGA Works Beyond the Green, and that is our career exploration event that we hold at our spectator championships. So our PGA championship, women's KPMG PGA championship, senior PGA championship, and also our PGA Works Collegiate Championship. So that is a career exploration event for high school and college age students in the local areas of those championships to expose them to careers in golf and beyond. And we say beyond golf because not everyone will end up in this industry, but we want them to know how important golf is to elevating their careers. So it's great to have leaders from this industry and beyond talk about how golf has been impactful to their careers and how it's helped elevate their success.
Woo! That was a mouthful, Cameron, but I'm glad you shared. And for those who just joined us and may not have caught it all, this is all on their website, so don't feel overwhelmed. Also, this is being recorded, so you will get a chance to listen to this again later. And we will touch on some of those things that Cameron mentioned in the conversation just to give you more insight. But thank you for that overview of the PGA Reach and PGA Works. And I'm going to invite our other guest up, Ayane Miranda. Ayane, can you please introduce yourself?
Yes, will do. So, hi, more afternoon maybe for you guys. I'm not sure if you're on the East Coast. But good morning. My name is Iane Miranda, and I am the PGA Works coordinator for the PGA Works program.
Thanks, Yane. And I just love this picture of beautiful Black girl magic on the screen. This is actually one of the big reasons why I host this event, because I want people to know that we do work in this industry. I know it's not very many of us, and we're not always in the front of the cameras, but we are definitely behind the scenes doing the work. And more importantly, because we're in these spaces, we are here to invite others to come and join us and learn more about what we do and hopefully be on our team. So, Cameron, you gave a really good background on the PGA, but can you just give us a background on yourself? Kind of how did you enter this space? And also tell the audience, are you a golfer? Because that's something that I always want people to know.
Yes, so I found out about PGA Works when I was in college. I attended a career fair and I met my former supervisor who kind of developed and came up with the program there. And he spoke to the fact that there's not many of us in this industry, Black women specifically. And she was a Black woman, and seeing her kind of piqued my interest for working in this industry. And to your question, no, I'm not a golfer. I'm learning, but I'm not a golfer. Didn't really grow up around golf, but knew I wanted to work in sports. And I thought this was a great opportunity. So I hopped on it and was a part of our PGA Works fellowship before coming to PGA of America headquarters for my previous role, which Iane is now in. So working alongside her is great because, again, bringing more Black women into this industry is so important. But yeah, that's kind of how I got in this industry. I worked in our fellowship and continued. I wanted to continue to do the work that we were doing. And now I'm here running the program. So it's kind of a full circle moment, but very excited to kind of talk more about the things that we do because it's very impactful and it's some great things that I hope we can get the word out to more people about.
Thanks for sharing. And I know you shared with me before, because this is not your first time being on this interview with me, about your background. So I think it's always cool to hear when people have no golf experience or interaction with golf until they come into the golf industry. So Yane, I'm going to also ask you the same question. How did you find out about this opportunity, and are you a golfer?
Yeah, so I'll start with I'm not a golfer. I have absolutely no golf background. The first time I even considered a career in golf was I went to the PGA show, which was back in like 2021 in Orlando, by way of one of my professors who is trying to bring more minorities into the industry of golf by way of work. And my background is primarily in football operations. So I did a couple things with my undergrad, and then I went to work for some football bull organizations before I took a fellowship with one of our section offices in golf. And then a few short months later, this position opened up. So now I'm working at headquarters.
That's really cool. So again, glad to hear that someone who's not a golfer gets in the golf industry. And I think what we'll touch on today is about how the skills needed and interviews that you've gone through. Golf, being not being a golfer isn't necessarily going to provide you advantage or disadvantage. It just really comes down to the job. And so, Cameron, I know that you're in the process of hiring people now. So can you talk to some of the opportunities that are available, and then we'll delve into kind of what you look for as far as interviews and so forth.
Yes, so we are so I just want to clarify this. We don't specifically hire our fellows. They're hired on by their leads at their sections, but we are definitely here to help you kind of connect with them and let them learn a little more about you. But there are currently two fellowships that we have open. One actually taking Iane's old position in North Florida, so in Orlando, and one at near our home in Frisco, Texas. So just for location wise, but we do have them spread out all across the US, and those other ones will open up at the start of the year. But I think some things, if for those who aren't golfers that are interested in entering this industry, I think that utilizing the other work that you have can be very beneficial to this industry. I think many people get a little scared just because they haven't had golf industry experience and think that that might be a disadvantage to them, but it's not. I think a lot of things can cross all sections and cross different things, whether you worked in another sport or just operationally in other places. It can be your skills can very much work within this industry. So I think that using your prior experience can be very helpful to you and very can kind of be beneficial to you. And also, I think that sometimes not being a golfer gives you another insight that many people in this industry might not have. And that's not a bad thing, but that kind of gives you other ways to come about the different problems or things that you might work through throughout your fellowship. But I think that for those who are golfers or just those interested in general, it's about being open. It's the one thing I tell all fellows when I first meet them is to be open to this position, because you're going to do a lot of different things and you got to be open and willing to do it. And you might not like everything, but it'll be a great lesson to teach you what you like and what you don't like. And ultimately, as we help you through the professional development side throughout your fellowship, you quickly learn the things that you gravitate towards more. And that is helpful with us when we help fellows try to land full-time jobs after ending their fellowship.
All right, great information. And how many of those would you say fellowships are spread out throughout the country?
So currently we'll have 26 this year within 24 of our PGA sections and 2 golf entities. And they're in places such as Texas, Georgia, Florida, New York, the Washington, D.C. area, North Carolina, Michigan, California, just to name a few, but they're in other places as well, Pennsylvania. So we have them spread across the U.S. and next year we'll be expanding even more. So I'm happy. We can't say those yet, but happy to say that they'll be in even more places for people to be a part of our fellowships.
Awesome. And those sound like some great places. I've lived in a couple of those, but major cities. So I'm not saying golf courses, some of them won't be in smaller towns, but typically people think of golf courses or golf being in a small town away from everything. So it's nice to hear they're in bigger cities. And so Ayane, since you're currently in a role as a fellow, please remind us where you are and kind of what this experience for you is like, being that you're just getting into it.
Yeah, so I'm actually no longer in my fellow role. That is one of the roles that the North Florida section will be hiring for. But my time as a fellow, so it depends on the season. So the fellowship is a year-long program, and the bulk of your summer is a lot of events. So I personally did our youth tournaments, drive, chip, and putt, a few PGA Junior League events, and then I assisted with our section tournaments as well. Once you transition out of summer into the fall time, that's when you are helping out with more section events, not so many youth events anymore. And you spend time preparing and planning for the schedule for the next fellow who's going to take your position the following year. And then during spring, you're essentially looking for full-time roles and transitioning out. I think I was very fortunate to be able to find a full-time role during that summer period. So I wasn't in my fellowship for very long. But to speak to what you guys were talking about earlier, how not having a golf background isn't necessarily a setback. Like I mentioned earlier, all of my experience was in football operations, but many of the skills that I acquired there were very much transitional to what I did in golf, because I still did events, I still did ops work, I still did volunteer recruitment, which were all skills that I had developed working in football. So I don't think people should be discouraged if they don't have a golf background when trying to apply for fellowships, internships, or any full-time roles that they see within golf.
That's good to hear. And you're right. It's especially in the sports world, I think a lot of it's transferable. I always tell people in golf, especially in the corporate space, it's just like any other corporation, right? You still have an accounting department, you still have an HR, you still have a legal, IT, marketing. So anywhere you would do those skills, you can do that in the golf space as well. And so Cameron, I know you did a fellowship too before your role. Where was yours located? And was your role, what you did, similar to what Ayane did at her location?
Yeah, so mine was in St. Louis, Missouri, and very similar to her. I worked the summertime. I worked a lot on our youth tournament, so our junior tour, and then went on to do business development, a lot of planning and stuff ahead of planning for the following year. So that's scheduling those same events for next year, and making sure as the time goes throughout the year that those are set up so that for the next fellow, everything's put in place for them. So pretty much on the same wave of everything that she did. And again, that's kind of across the board for all of our fellows. There'll be spots and pieces where some might have different things. For instance, we have some fellows who, if there's a championship in their section, uh, they get the firsthand experience on helping our team or other teams with what that looks like, specifically from a reach side of things. Like we like to include them in the different planning and things that we do. So that's also like a cool initiative that we like to push, is getting those fellows integrated into the process of planning things that we do at our major championships. But again, that's kind of like a little one-off depending upon the section that they're in. But we try to expose them to as many different things as possible. Iane mentioned this earlier. We bring all our fellows to the PGA show. And for those who don't know, it's probably like one of the largest, if not the largest, place of gatherings for people within this industry. Um, so we give them an opportunity to meet as many people as possible and give them direct contacts to people in this industry. So just kind of getting those different hands-on, touched on point experiences is something we try to develop throughout the fellowship for all of our fellows.
Awesome. So good to know. And so let's talk about, you mentioned, Ayane, you had some transferable skills from the football to this. What were some new skills that you acquired during your fellowship that you currently use, or that you maybe that you would say really helping you in your current role?
Good question. I would say that my something my fellowship taught me was to be very forward thinking, and trying to anticipate like what you can do next for like events that are coming up. For my current role, I'm very, very new into it. I'm about like 2 weeks into my current role. So I'm still learning some of my job duties and what's required of me for this role. But besides being forward thinking, being quick on your feet with things like with problem solving. And a lot of times, because we do go to different events, you have to learn how to solve problems on the spot and sometimes very creatively. So I do foresee that as something that would be helpful that I gained from my fellowship that I could now use in my current role. And then just learning some of the golf lingo. I learned that from my fellowship. I didn't have that going in. So just being able to communicate with different people that you'll meet on golf courses and not feel lost or like you don't belong there.
That's actually a really good point. I mean, the language of golf, I was just teaching an academy actually 2 days ago, and we were going over the rules of golf. And I explained to the girls, this is like learning Spanish or French. You kind of have so many different terms in golf that unless someone actually teaches them to you, it takes a long time to actually get them, or maybe you never do if, if you're never taught. So that's a good point. And Cameron, I know you've been with the company for a while. And you actually mentioned earlier that you are learning golf. So how has golf, the sport, helped you with your role and maybe other avenues of what you do?
Yeah, I think that it's so important to kind of learn this game. It helps elevate your career, and that's what we kind of talk about in some of our programming as well. Is that it can be very beneficial to kind of you elevating in your career. But I think that a great thing about the PGA is that we work with a lot of PGA professionals, specifically a lot of teaching professionals who, for those of us at the company who aren't golfers, we have, for instance, a women's league where a lot of the women who aren't golfers, it's about a 6 to 8 week league, I believe, something of the sort. And they do it in different pockets of the year, and they kind of teach us the basics of the game, and then eventually take us out on the course. So it's very helpful. I don't think I'll ever be the best golfer ever, but at least gives me a little more of like a want and helpful learning from specifically these are women teachers, so it's very, very helpful for them to teach us. And obviously things are different for women in playing than they are for men, so they're super helpful with us, and it's fun to learn with other people who aren't big golfers. So we're all kind of in the same position. If we mess up, we kind of laugh at each other, but it's a fun time. And it's also great to kind of bond with your coworkers during this time, learn about what other people do. I think sometimes everyone, and we can all say this, we get a little too into our teams and what we do that we sometimes forget to look outside of us. So whether if it's a team that I don't really interact with, I get to learn what that person's doing. Like for instance, our tech team, I've gotten to learn, meet one of the women on that team very well. So I get to learn a lot about what she does, and she learns a lot about what I do. And we kind of get to kind of bounce off of one another on our different job roles.
Okay, that's good to hear, and I'd agree. Having been that pro teaching the staff at the company when I was at LPGA, it is the first one of the few times you get to interact with somebody from several different departments and several different levels of the company, whether it's C-suite or entry level roles, to engage and do something fun that kind of puts everybody on the same playing field. So that's always I thought was a good way to get people together. So let's switch gears and talk about applying for your roles and then interviews, because obviously that's a big part of why we're here, is kind of getting people to have access to these opportunities. So I would say let's just start with the application process. Resumes. What are you all looking for when you go to those career fairs? What are you looking for, Cameron, as far as a good candidate that you're interacting with? And on the flip side, maybe touch on things that you've seen that don't seem so positive that you want to warn people about.
Yeah, so our applications are open. The ones that are open right now are live via Teamwork Online. But I think a big thing for us is again that if you aren't a golfer, making sure that your skills from your other roles are transferable. I think that really reading the job description and adding in things and moving things around to tailor it to that job description. So, for instance, like if you manage volunteers, I would say that on your resume, because that's something you'll potentially have to do in the fellowship. So it's kind of those things again are transferable. So making sure you're aware of that. But just if it's speaking to one of our hiring managers for the specific section, it's being open and honest and just kind of being like, hey, yeah, I'm not a golfer, but I'm willing to learn. I have a willingness to learn. I want to learn. I want you to teach me more about this industry. And this is how what I've done in the past can be beneficial to you and your team here. And you're willing to grow in this role and kind of figure it out. And I say figure out and not in a bad way, but this role is all about kind of working on the fly. And I think that that's what the good thing about it is. So the people that we've really seen strive in these roles are just willing to do anything and everything to help them grow. And you see it in the work that they do now post fellowship, but also just throughout their fellowship and the opportunities that they've been given. So I hope that answered it. It's just kind of making sure that you're open, speaking kind of to your experience, but also just tailoring and make sure that everything on your resume kind of fits with the job description. And if it isn't, maybe being able to talk to it. That's kind of the positives. I guess a negative in things we don't want is just someone who isn't open, because you won't succeed in this role. But just kind of being able to go with the flow is such a good thing. And I think that that's kind of what we look for. And that's kind of what our hiring managers look for in a fellow. They can teach you golf and they're always willing to teach you golf. I foresee we have a lot of non-golfers in this fellowship, and they've gotten the bug to play. And a lot of for instance, we have a non-golfer before her fellowship, and now she's in the PGA associate program. So that goes to show that if the hiring managers that we have, they have a will to help you out, to learn this game and to learn this industry. And she went from being, I believe she played college softball to now in the process to being a PGA member. So what a cool turnaround. And it shows that the catering that our hiring managers do and understand for the importance of the program, has kind of made a pivot for that. But that's not the only story that we have, but that's just one I can think of at the top of my head.
That's a great story because I do think that when you work at a company, especially golf, because golf isn't like football, or some other sport where you're never going to play on the football team. But at golf, especially if your facility is nearby a golf course, like at LPGA, we were near a golf course, then or you just have a public course nearby, right? You could easily go there and learn the game and then practice and get good at it and maybe get good enough to teach. And so, for those who just joined us, we're with the PGA Works team, Cameron Dinkins, Ayana Miranda. And if you have any questions throughout, feel free to put them in the chat. We're just talking about obviously the opportunities. We just talked about resumes and kind of what they're looking for and things that you'd be aware of. And the main thing was to be open. Both of these ladies are not golfers or were not golfers when they started, but they still had the interest and openness to learn about this industry. And now they are both full-time employees. So this just goes to show that, PGA is very committed to not just exposing young people to the industry, but also bringing on those people to work in the industry for them. So that's why this is a great opportunity for anybody who's looking to just dip their toe into the golf industry, because you'll obviously learn a lot. And hopefully, like these two young ladies, they are now full-time hired employees. So they really are really engaged and really interested in this industry. Cameron, I'm going to be talking briefly about the interview process as far as things that you, again, have been positive that really kind of seal the deal for you. And I know you don't hire directly, but maybe things that you've seen or heard. And then Ayane, I want you to talk about obviously your process of getting this role and how you were able to transition from the fellowship into a full-time role. I know both of you did this process, but since you just now are doing it, Ayane, I want to hear about that experience. So I'll start with you, Cameron, first.
Good things. I guess one last thing that I didn't mention previously was typically our fellows will start in May and work to the next May, but we do have some that start in January or before May. So that's kind of just for the timeline for people interested. That's kind of where that interview process obviously would happen before then for our fellows that open up in May. The interview process or application process will start around January, December, it kind of varies, but around that time frame, just so that everyone is aware of that. But that's kind of our main thing when it comes to the interview process. I think our sections always lean to us and ask us questions on, hey, I have two great candidates. We can't give them the decision, but like, what would you do, or what are some great things kind of to help us put down for the question about like the transition. I think it was a really easy transition. Just kind of this obviously in the section role for me personally. It's a little different than working at HQ, but understanding the fellowship and PGA Works as a whole helped make it easier for me when I came on to HQ. But I had a goal and I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to help bring more people in this industry, but overall, I just wanted to help use sport as an impact to help others. And I think that we do that in bringing more people in this industry, but also bringing and spreading awareness about what we do to people that aren't in this industry through our Beyond the Green event. So that was really great. I think something I learned that I didn't do was more about the impact that we do with our PGA Works scholarships. So helping provide scholarships to people, I think that's always a great thing, especially in this day and age and with the price of college and tuition being extremely expensive. Anything to alleviate a burden, especially for people of diverse backgrounds, is something that is important to me. So I'm super happy that we do something of that sort.
Go ahead, Ayane. Share with us your experience with the transition and just in general, getting the opportunity and interview process.
Yeah, so I honestly think that my transition was fairly smooth. The job first opened up, I think, somewhere around late June. I applied mid-July, and I had 3 rounds of interviews. So the first interview is a program that they use called Smart Hire. It's like a virtual interview. So it'll like flash a question on the screen. There's about 5 or 6 questions, and then you answer the question, and it submits your responses to the hiring managers. Then you have 2 virtual interviews. One was directly with my supervisor, Cameron, and then the second one was with the team that I'd be working with primarily. Both of those interviews were 45 to an hour long. And the questions were typical interview questions asking like how my prior experience applied to what I think I could do for the Works program. Why did I apply? What are my, challenges that I experienced in my last role? How are ways that I creatively solved those challenges? And so in total, my interview process was about like a 3-week period in between my 2 virtual interviews. And then as far as moving to Texas, because I did have to relocate for this role from Orlando, that process was fairly smooth too. We had a hurricane, and so I kind of drove through the hurricane a little bit. But it was good. I thought it was very smooth and very well thought out, and I thought there was good communication with me as a candidate during that time period. So yeah, overall it was good.
Okay, well, that was really thorough, and I'm glad to hear that you survived the hurricane. Having lived in Florida, I feel like it's not as crazy as it sounds, but for those who are not used to hurricanes, that does sound pretty insane. And so I don't know if you guys are currently working remotely, but there was a question from the audience about remote working. Is that pretty common now at the PGA, or is it something that is specific to a role?
Yeah, so our job is a little different than the sections. Pretty much in the sections, they go every day. There are times, and I know that some sections in EON, could probably speak this to a little more than I can. They'll give their staff at least one remote day or a comp day, especially for those times in which you work probably like 6 days a week, just because in the nature of events, you have times where you do that. They'll give the section leads will give them a comp day or a remote day that happens. From a PGA HQ standpoint, we do have a hybrid schedule, so we get to work hybrid. I think we're both at home right now today, but we do have a hybrid schedule where we have a main and office days and then days where we get to work home. But for our fellowship on the section level, it's more in office than it is outside of the office. But there are times in which that, and I can't speak to all of them, but for majority of them, that they have times where they can work from home.
Okay. Another audience question that was asked is you mentioned, Cameron, about you getting lessons, of course, and there being pros at your particular location that offer lessons. But is golf a perk of the job? Meaning, if you work at these facilities, are they connected to a local golf course where you can get free golf? Or is what is the golf? What are their golf perks and what are they?
Yeah, I think again that's kind of like a section by section basis. For majority, I will say that some of them are located on golf courses, so they do have access and straight to the golf course. But others, they're in a section with a plethora of PGA professionals, so who are always willing to help and teach our fellows, especially those who aren't golfers, the game. And I think that also the staff on there, majority of them are staffed with majority PGA professionals. So again, they have people right in their back pockets to teach them. And I can go to tell you there are many of them who are learning from their staff members, but also the local PGA professionals who are there to help them. What that cost looks like might change. A lot of times they'll just help them for free, but they are people who do get paid and maybe they'll give you a discount. But for majority of them, they have people there that are just willing to teach them, to help them so that they can learn the game more.
Got it. So Ayane, I haven't heard you mention if you started golfing yet, but what would you say is one of the perks that you like the most about working for the PGA?
I would so I have not started golfing yet. And I've had a few opportunities, much like what Cameron said when I was at a section office. Because I had no golf background when I took that job, my first like 2 or 3 weeks, my supervisor was teaching me like how to swing, how to hold a golf club, the anatomy of the golf club. He took me out on golf courses, explained like what's a green, what's a tee box, um, what's a par, etc. And then I was also very fortunate that we had a PJ professional who worked right next door from our office, and he was a man of color, and he offered several times to give me free lessons. Sorry, I think my A, I don't want to call her name because then she'll like go off. But I saw she just like, anyways. But he offered several times to get me involved into the game of golf. Almost every section event that I went to, because I was the only person on staff who had no golf background, um, several PJ professionals offered to help get me into the game. Now at HQ, our I forgot the team's name. But they're teachers. I don't know if you can help me out. Our education department, I've had a few of them come by and offer to help get me into the game of golf. And then at HQ, we actually have like a putting green downstairs, as well as a whole area dedicated, kind of like a golf simulator area, dedicated to helping people learn how to swing. So that's definitely a perk. Also, being able to get a discount at the golf course that we reside on, to play rounds there. So, yeah.
Well, it sounds like you have had ample time to get some free golf. And I don't know if you know how much a golf lesson costs, Ayane, but let me just tell you right now, you better take advantage of it while it's free. Because if you have to pay somebody, you're going to be like, I should have taken advantage. I can recall actually when I was a caddy, that was my first golf job in life. I was young and I was at this very, very nice golf club in Cleveland, Ohio called Canterbury Golf Club. And we were able to play the golf course for free every Monday because the course was closed. And I don't know if you know what a caddy does, but essentially I had to walk the golf course every day and carry a bag on my back. So as a young person, I just didn't want to be at the golf course on that Monday after walking the course for the rest of the days of the week, to play. And I regret to this day that I did not take advantage of playing that golf course. So I'm just putting that story out there for you as a forewarning of, the hindsight is 2020 type of thing. Make sure you take advantage. And also because it'll help you in other ways with your job, of course. So I will ask one last question, and then I want to, again, the audience, if you have any questions, we're going to be wrapping up probably in the next 8 minutes or so. So just be mindful to send in your questions if you have any additional questions. What is one of the, I don't want to say coolest things, but just, memorable experiences that you've had so far at this job? Because again, you both didn't come in as golfers, and now you're both working for the company, full time. So what's a memorable experience or the aha moment, if you will, that made you go, I want to stay in this industry?
Yeah, I think being able to work at our major championships, it's something that I had seen on TV before, but again, not being a really big golfer was kind of something I watched in passing. But to be there, it's like a wow moment. So I've had my second time around at our major championships, which is great. But in that, it's also giving that wow moment to other people, specifically those that look like us and just other people from diverse backgrounds. When we bring those high school and college age students, many of them aren't golfers, so they get that aha moment, that wow moment. They like really can't believe it, especially growing up in these cities. A lot of them hadn't had the opportunity to attend some of these historic golf courses. So giving them that opportunity makes me know that the work that we're doing is really good, and it's so important to continue to do this work. So on my side, it's just being there, but to see them be happy, it's like, okay, we're doing the right thing. I'm doing the right thing. This is the right thing. How do we continue to give people this moment, and also not only do it in that moment, but continue to kind of do it more? And then selfishly, last year at the PGA Championship, we got to bring Josh Allen and some of the other Buffalo Bills there. So it was really cool to see that the kids happy to see these NFL players, because our team always jokes a lot is that, and saying that everyone's favorite athlete's favorite sport is golf. And it's so true to hear these NFL players talk about how golf has been impactful in their lives. And people just think about what they do on the football field, but golf is kind of like their therapy. It's like their point of kind of giving themselves competitive nature without being on the football field, but also a way to make themselves happy and a pastime of theirs. So getting that other way of people talking about how this industry is important was very special. So that's kind of my 2 cents on what keeps me in this industry.
All right, Ayane, your turn.
Yes, so for me, it's not tied to my current role, but when I was a fellow, like I mentioned earlier, I ran a lot of youth golf tournaments. And so obviously there aren't a lot of people of color that play the game of golf, especially like when they're young. So my like moment that like really made me want to continue to do this work, especially like with PGA Reach and PGA Works, was we were actually at LPGA International. We had a drive to putt there, and one of the young girls made it to our sub regional, and she was a young Black girl, and she had like her natural hair out that day, and I had like my natural hair out that day, and she actually had came like first overall in her age division. So her mom was taking like pictures as I was handing her the ribbon. So I was trying to like get out the way, and her mom was like, "No, no, no! Like I want you in it." So just being able to like see that people like how excited they were to see like another young Black women overseeing that tournament, and then having a young Black girl win her age division for that tournament really showed me that our presence matters in this game. So that was like my moment that really did it for me.
That's a very cool story, Ayane. And I will say I've had that moment as well several times. That's actually what really, I guess, motivates me, even though I played golf my whole life, to work in the corporate space and at this level in the game. Because when you work for a global company like PGA, it's you get to interact with all types of people, but a lot of times you may be that one person in the room that young Black girl or young Black boy can identify with. And I've actually had parents come up to me and say, "I'm so glad you're here. Like, we needed somebody like you here." And especially like you said, when you're the person overseeing the event or in the front, it really, really does make an impact. So I do applaud you for being that person, as well as you, Cameron, because that's what we're here for, right? To get more of us in this space, to make everybody feel more comfortable, right? And also being that you all weren't golfers, it's even more comforting for some to know that, hey, I don't have to be this highly skilled golfer, played all my life to work in this industry or be here. So I thank you so much for those stories. I'm just going to recap what opportunities are available now, Cameron, that you mentioned, how and when they should consider applying as we wrap up this interview.
Yes, so right now we have two of our PGA Works fellowships open, one in our North Florida section located in Orlando, Florida, and the other in our Northern Texas section located here in Frisco, Texas, so right outside of Dallas. They're both, I'll send the links to Jamie so that she can share with everyone. They're both available on Teamwork Online. So if anyone is interested in applying and applies, just as a reminder for recent grads, please let Jamie know so that she can let me know and I can let the hiring managers know, both to start at the start of the year. But both of those are kind of open, and then our other fellowships will open towards either the end of the year at the start of next year for a May-June timeline of start date. Again, and those are kind of all across the U.S., so just kind of be open and aware to that happening as well.
And I should have asked you this earlier, but if someone applies for an opportunity that they are not located in that area, what are the relocation, parameters? Do you guys assist with that? What are the expectations?
So we don't assist with that because it's a fellowship role, but our teams who are in those sections are willing to help and kind of help navigate and alleviate any kind of constraints that are possible when it comes to that.
All right, thanks so much. Do any of you have anything to add to the conversation as we wrap up this interview? And again, anybody have any last questions in the audience, feel free to ask, but we just want to make sure everybody uses this opportunity to speak with the PGA team, because again, this is not something that you get to do every day. And this is why we created this space for you to get to as much information as you can about opportunities with the PGA. So Anything you want to share, Ayane, and then I'll end it with Cameron.
Yes, I'm open to connecting with anybody on LinkedIn who might want more information, not even specifically with golf, but anybody that's interested in working in the sports industry in general. And I would love to help like point them in the right direction because I know how helpful it was for me when I was in undergrad trying to connect with people who could help get me to where I wanted to be. So my LinkedIn is my name. There's nothing special about it. And you can just like send in the opening message like from golf directory career fair, and I'd love to connect with you guys.
Yes, same. Happy to connect with people on LinkedIn. And Jamie, if you would like to provide my work email as well, that's totally fine. We're both here and happy to connect. And I think that it's super important about getting more people into this industry, specifically people of color. So any way that we can help or navigate you to the right people, always willing to help, always willing to just kind of take an informational call and explain more about what we do and just kind of learn more about whoever it is experienced. Willing to do that in any way that we see fit, but always here to be a helping hand to those interested in this industry.
I do have an audience question about the contact in Atlanta specific for PGA Works. Who might that be, or who should they go to for that? Where should they go to find that person?
Yeah, they can contact me and then I can get them directly contacted with the executive director for our role in Atlanta. I'm happy to help. His name is Scott Geary. He's super helpful and one of our favorites, super always willing to kind of help out. And we'll also happy to help introduce you to the current fellow. His name is Ravi Gregory. Attended Morehouse College and played on their golf team. So I'm happy to connect you with both of them as they can kind of give you an insight on what they do specifically in their section regarding PGA Works.
Awesome. And just for the audience knows, I'll be sharing an email follow-up. So hopefully you are registered with this event. If you're not, please go to blackgolfdirectory.com events/events to register for free. I send out emails with the recording of this interview as well as the contact information of people in the interview and any job postings that they share. So please remember to register if you need that information. Also, and you'll get that email tomorrow morning. So it comes out the day after the interview. Also, we will, I just want to thank you all again for being here. You guys are, again, I've been a faithful contributor to this conversation, and I'm so grateful to have you here because, again, this is such important information for people to know. And I just want to reiterate that they do have some fellowships available now to apply for. So the link that'll be shared in the email, please don't hesitate to register to apply, but also feel free to send us your resume so we can forward it on your behalf, just so they know that you got it from us and they can take make sure it's at the top of the list, and also make sure it's a good resume. You know, I don't want just any old resumes. Make sure that it's clear about the job and what it entails, because I want you guys to have the best advantage. We have our next PGA, our next virtual career fair coming up on Wednesday. So tomorrow we actually are off, but Wednesday we have one at noon. And so please tune in for that. There'll be a reminder sent out for that on our channels. And we'll be having one pretty much every day thereafter, 45 minutes, just like this one, going forward. So I appreciate everyone who joined in. Thank you for your questions. And thank you again, Cameron and Iyane, for your time. So I'll see everybody on Wednesday at noon. All right. Have a great day.